All right. So on this episode of Build Shield, we have Jeff Postel of Postel Group and Casey Parasoff, our bonding and surety wizard from Leaf Assurance. Hey guys.
What's going
Good
on?
afternoon.
Oh man, we are excited today. I get to talk shop with some guys that I really admire in their chosen fields. But we're going to start off by laying the framework. We're going over bonding mentorship. So Casey Parasoff, it deals with construction contractors on a daily basis. And I just have a couple questions for you, man, off top. What's the most important or the most important aspects of getting bonding capacity up and communicating that to the agents and the, excuse me, sorry about that. So what's the most important aspect of getting the bonding capacity to the level that it needs to be for public jobs and bids?
Sure. So when we look at what surety underwriters and surety companies are looking for in general, they underwrite what are called the three C's, and that's character, capital, and capacity. The character's kind of the hardest one to underwrite. That's basically saying, will our client do what he says he's going to do, and is it of a high standard? The other two are capital, which is the strength of the balance sheet, and then the capacity side of it is what kind of expertise does our contractor that we're looking at have in terms of their experience personally as an owner of a construction company, but also the capacity of their equipment fleet, their auto fleet, and the most important asset that any company has, which is their human capacity or their human assets. Yeah. And so, when you combine all of those three things, once the underwriter kind of gets through all of their processes, they'll come to a decision after looking at those three.
Got it. So basically, it's a credit score overall. And then we, of course, know that the EMR scores play a vital role, making sure that you guys have a good safety culture in place, making sure it's viable, and making sure that you can perform when you say you can. From that aspect, I know Jeff's faced a lot of hurdles, and he's built a business based upon those three core tenets. He's also managed to scale through COVID and many other challenges. So my question to you, Jeff, and this is kind of an inferred question, but we talk about building capacity. What's been the most vital aspect for you as a contractor on the ground in building safety culture and bonding capacity?
Yeah, so I think, on the safety side, the biggest deal is to have a safety culture, right? And to literally invest in it. Safety, even though we all say it's number one, we don't, a lot of folks don't treat it like it's number one. If you treat it like it's like, if you treat your old lady, like your wife, like she's number one, you're paying attention to her.
Absolutely.
With her, you're investing in her. And safety is the same thing. So you got to spend the dollars, whether that's a safety consultant, like we happen to use STC as one of our safety consultants, or also have somebody in house. And that person have an OSHA 500, OSHA 510, and all
the trainer
that go along with that. You gotta create a culture that ultimately bleeds down into your workforce, down to the boots on the ground that are installing the product. And it'll show on your EMR. It'll show.
Absolutely.
And, so that's the big, you got to invest in it from the safety side of it.
And Jeff, you just nailed something on the head that I've just seen over and over again throughout my career, is that safety is a top-down buy-in. Meaning that if the owner of the company doesn't believe what you just said, it's going to be a very long road to get into that safe company, that lower EMR score, because the folks that work for you, they have to see it come from you.
Yeah, 100%. And at times, as a small business, you can struggle with that as an owner, and I've struggled with it at times where you're ripping and running and doing this and doing that, and the guys will be okay, they'll be fine, okay, well, the safety stuff we'll take care of, it'll be all right. You're doing everything else, but you've got to spend time with it, commit to it.
So before we dive into the broader concepts of it. Let's go ahead and get a framework for what bonding capacity really is and what bonding and surety represents for the viewers, because not everybody's acquainted. I think that's part of the impetus behind people being afraid to bid these types of jobs and afraid to go after building bonding capacity. Casey, what would you define bonding capacity and surety as?
Sure, great question. So when we look at bonding capacity, we look at two aspects of it. So your single job capacity limit. So after taking a look at the 3 Cs and getting a full underwriting file, the underwriter is going to take the recommendation from the surety agent. Whenever I send a submission off or for underwriting, I put my recommended single and aggregate programs. And so, the underwriter, metabolizes the underwriting information, and they'll come back and either agree or disagree, and we'll communicate through that. So the first part is, do they think that our contractor has the ability, the character, capital, and capacity to build single jobs of, let's say, $10 million, just to use a nice round number. And that's going to be kind of like your day-to-day limits. That doesn't mean, say, that the perfect job down the street from you, Jeff, comes up and it's a $12 million job. That doesn't mean that it's an automatic no. That just means, let's talk about the project a little bit more, why it makes so much sense to you, and kind of build out our quiver full of arrows to get that job single limit increased for this $12 million job that makes so much sense. Okay. That second part of it I kind of alluded to is the aggregate capacity side, and that says, okay, we're comfortable with $10 million jobs single, and we think that our contractor has the character, capital, and capacity to bid or to build $30 million worth of work at any one point in time. Aggregate is tested on, this is important, cost to complete of all your projects under contract at a time of bid.
Okay. Contracts at the time of bid. I'm glad you touched on that one. So aggregate rates are that. Character, as you said, has a lot to do with disclosure. And the thing is, when we don't know, the true, cost of a gallon of milk, as they say, you guys, what have you experienced as far as being completely transparent with your officer, with your bonding officer? Does that play well into character? Because I mean, when you don't know completely what the person has on their bid schedule, are you able to go in there and really argue and fight for the contractor?
The one thing I always ask of all of our clients is kind of the first, after we shake each other's hand, is let's always be transparent with one another, because that's the most successful way for a partnership to work. And I view these as a total partnership. And so, transparency is key to it all. The days of, trying to slide something through, it ends up hurting more than it does harming, because you got to start juggling those inaccuracies that you were telling 6 months ago. If you do that long enough, it's not sustainable. So my whole thought process on it is that once we build that trust with our surety company, that's why you don't really want to move bond companies around, because that's the only way they can underwrite your character, which is the most important thing that they underwrite. Is that it's over time they've seen that everything that you've told them that you were planning on doing has come to fruition, and that they truly trust their contractor. And so, like, when
tried their credit score, essentially.
Yes, it's exactly right. And so, like, when things are bad, our industry is like this, and what we're looking for is to team with a surety partner that is writing us while things are going downhill, because they understand and they believe in our plan as we come back up.
Got it. So it's a buy-in from all sides, and I appreciate that, because a true partnership requires that transparency. And then again, like Jeff was saying with the marriage reference, you have to invest in it. Yeah. And disclosure is definitely important, as we all know, in any business. But further, I want to go ahead and broaden this and take a step back on it, because I like that I got Jeff on the show today, because this person, as you said, industry goes up and down. This individual, I know for a fact, has scaled his business up and down through COVID and myriad challenges. Now, right now, we're in what's called a hard market. As we all know, it's kind of a recession. Texas, we're kind of insulated from it. But coming from that background, Jeff, what was the most valuable thing that you found, COVID and into the market that we are in currently, as far as keeping your supply chain, scalability, and all the things you really face? What's been the most significant growth you've experienced from these experiences?
So I think the biggest growth for us, it's been the mindset of keep doing what you're good at. Do what you're good at. And Brad, I had everybody tell me, man, like, Jeff, don't get out over your skis. Don't, and you know me, dude. Like I get at it. We're looking to go win work, and we want to create jobs for people, and we want to make money, and we want to keep rolling.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to have that formula to where you literally don't get out over your skis, because it's one bad job, or one bad estimate, or it's one badass pandemic, and and there we go.
Absolutely.
So twofold. So the formula for not getting out of your skis, it's real generic to say, oh, don't bite off more than you can chew.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a real thing. And so to not have to pay out more man hours than you can afford to float when you don't get paid for 90 days, is you got to have that formula. So the growth was committing to the formula. The growth for me was not understanding the formula, but the growth was to commit to it and say, hey, this is how we're going to run our business. So that, when COVID hit and put us in a bad place because of material escalation, that was one of the number one things. And the other thing, 1A, 1B was, folks, hey, Postel, can you do this? Hey man, you're a great company. We hear nothing but good things about you. Can you come work on this? Can you bid this work, bid that work? Nope. Yeah. We did what we're good at with clients that we know. Hey, I don't want to work for you if you don't love me, bro.
Character. There it is.
You have to love me, and you have to want me to win, and you have to want me to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done with the days of going to work for anybody.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
We don't need to practice anymore.
Yeah, don't need any practice. And honestly, I don't need the risk, man. It's already risk. When I go and work, sign any contract, I'm risking it all. But the deal is, I would rather risk it with you, Brad, than risk it with some dude I don't know.
Precisely. Excuse me. And that's the thing. I think that ties in well. Actually, that lesson ties in well with those 3 C's Casey was talking about, because they're looking at your aggregate limit. Is this person bidding jobs that they're accustomed to doing? Do they have core competencies at these jobs? Are they bidding stuff that's outside of their ability to perform? Are they bidding stuff that's outside of their P&L sheet? Yep. Like you said, if you don't get paid for 90 days, man, that's the same as a catastrophic loss. Because if you don't have the working capital in place, and you don't have the manpower in place, I mean, you're dead in the water. You hit the nail on the head. And that's why I wanted to have you on here, for the practical application. So at least I kind of to a question. They say right now, about 98% of jobs, as we know, just project management, this is from the PM Block body of knowledge, project management body of knowledge. They say 98% of jobs finish over time, over budget. And that's just pure stat. But what it comes down to is, whatever the risk of completion and default looks like. And I think that you once again hit it on the head by saying, if I'm not in that space where I don't feel comfortable, if I'm working with people where they're not going to default on me at the first sign of a hard time, then I run that risk and I mitigate that risk well. And the other day I was very impressed, and I wanted to ask you about scaling. You have 3 locations or so, and I mean, for those who aren't for those that don't know who Jeff is, he does large scale drywall installation and a bunch of other stuff. And he manages it very lean, and he runs a tight ship, and he has a good EMR score for the reasons that he's listed. But how did you find scaling when COVID happened?
So our company, we started in 2015, and we were scaling up as COVID hit. And when I say scaling up, I'll give you a good example. So our drywall company, let's say if we were doing jobs that were typically 300, 400K subcontracts, as we got into 2019, we jumped to get million and a half, and up to $2 million jobs, drywall jobs going into 19, into 19. Contract signed, dotted line, 19, boom. So this work as a drywaller, you're not going to even get on that job for about a year.
Yeah.
They got to come out of the dirt. So boom, COVID hits. We've just scaled up. We took on jobs. We went close. When I'm talking about close to the edge, right? We were way too close to the edge, and then COVID hit in 20. And what's crazy is initially there was no impact. We're doing school work, we're doing higher education work. So our we're gone. We could get after it. We can keep rolling. Boom, material stopped shipping. And so again, contracts we signed in 19, material stopped shipping. I've got to keep my guys busy. If I let them go, they're going to go somewhere else and work. So they're twiddling their thumbs. I'm losing money there because the efficiency is bad. And then the damn material doubles on us. On contracts that we signed in 19, material doubled in late 20 and 21.
Doubled.
And the owners on most of the projects we were on, 3 in particular, 2 of them were public owners, did not honor that escalation. Like COVID was my fault.
Wow.
We were working in insurance. And so from this perspective, I remember insurance coming. This is everything from people that do drywall installation to big GCs. And we're looking at, and also, renovations and things like that. And the large carriers, there was 28 or so lawsuits that popped up back to back. You remember that, Casey?
Oh, yeah. So
the crazy part about it was, just looking at it from a contractor's perspective, it says insured against, disease, natural, and they read those words very, very tightly, and like you said, almost as though COVID was the consumer's fault. So I'm glad that I was able to, see that, and that you were able to survive that, because that was definitely a rough time as far as reading the contract was concerned.
Yeah. And Brad, I'll tell you, I think, we took an L, especially on the drywall subcontractor side, and surviving it, man, was just, and I'll just quickly, it was creating, good pay terms with our suppliers, right? Because we ate the losses. So, but the relationships that we talked about, whether it's relationship with your surety, and we had to have some tough conversations with surety, the relationships with our clients, and then the relationship with our suppliers, and say, hey, guys, we typically pay y'all on this every 35 days or 60 days or whatever the pay terms are for that particular job. Guys, I'm gonna need 3 months to pay y'all out on this thing.
Man.
We had
How was that received, Jeff?
Say again?
How was that received?
For some folks, it was tough. They didn't. There was a couple of drywall suppliers that were like, "Screw you," you know what I'm saying? And then there were, but the folks that we had, and we had good relations with everybody. We've always paid well. But some of them were cool. They were like, "Man, we get it. Let's figure this out, and then whatever we say we're gonna do, let's stick to it." And that's what we did. And it's funny because now that we're out of that space, the guys that couldn't help us, they're not getting as much of our business.
Yeah. And you found out, like you said, that relationship wasn't somebody that loved you, as you said. When it comes down to it, I look at it, and here's the thing about adversity for me, and this is probably a carry-all. Adversity is going to show you who the real people are. It's going to show you who the real firms are, who the ones that are going to be solid through that. I mean, COVID was the storm of all storms, and you got a chance to see what suppliers, and a lot of those suppliers are not in business anymore. The ones that weren't honoring their word, and good for the environment. It's a cleanup.
And the one thing that I would say, Jeff, is right there, that story that you told, that to me would be the greatest highlight that you can give as far as underwriting material back to the underwriters, as far as your character goes. You could have easily blamed COVID, kind of walked away from anything that didn't allow a force majeure clause to kick in and pay you back for what this act of God, did to the construction community, but you didn't, man. You fought through it, and you reached out to your partners and you asked them for help, and you got everything righted. Man, that to me, there's no greater sign of character than that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and we stand on that for sure. We definitely stand on that.
Absolutely. I'm glad we're able to outline character. The best thing for me is kind of asking, what's your takeaway, Jeff? And this goes for you too, Casey. In the construction space, we live in a catastrophic world. We don't look at things. We have to have a pessimistic overview because, as Jeff said, you're signing a contract, you're gambling everything every time you sign a contract. You're uncertain. But as far as making certainty is concerned, I think character plays a huge role. What's that second C, Casey?
Capital.
Okay.
So the strength of your balance sheet.
Got it. And so the thing is, I think we highlighted that well also. Jeff gave us a great example of the fact that he has to be able to tell people and communicate the expectations and make for certain, like, hey, here's what we're getting paid on, and I need to have this much money just in case this happens. So once again, that's a great point. My takeaway, I guess, and my question for you, Jeff, first is an overview, not just about bonding capacity, not just about the challenges. What has being a business owner and facing all of these challenges done for you as a human being?
I would say it's put a lot in perspective, man. In terms of that, this stuff ain't about me. It's not about the Lamborghini cash. You know what I'm saying? That I ain't got yet.
Not yet, got it.
I got to keep that capital up, right?
That's right.
I can't live quick. But I think it's put in perspective, man, of really what it means to keep a baby healthy, and what that looks like as far as financially and even our life, right? Our life, our families, everything. You got to put it all in perspective. The big thing is that, man, we want to impact the community. It's very simple to me. We want to create jobs for people in trade contracting. So in order to do that, we got to keep our doors open. Well, in order to keep the doors open, we got to go win work. In order to go perform that work that we win, we work in the public sector. We got to be bondable. We got to have a good balance sheet, in order to get you guys to write us, and then when we do that, we got to go out and perform and make money, and that's how we keep that circle going. Mm-hmm. So I think at the end of the day, it just puts perspective on having a whole healthy baby that can impact the community. And if I'm doing right, and I'm going to say straight up, I know if I'm doing right by people, God will take care of me. Me and Brad will be in that Lamborghini or that Ferrari or something, hopefully down the line.
There it is.
If I do right by people, man, we're going to be fine.
That's a great takeaway, man. I think that's the thing about struggle. I love construction because not just you get to see the end product. We're part of a long progeny of builders. People that build communities, people that build structures, people that build bonding capacity. But moreover, I think we build people. I saw your son the other day, and this is just a takeaway and aside. His son, Jeff Jr., works in his office, and he's got the entire workflow up. And this young man is tagging things off. And I'm looking at it and thinking about my upbringing in construction also, and just kind of stepping back and appreciating the fact that process is important. But like Jeff said, it takes you away from it for perspective. It's not about you. I think that people survive in construction by being realistic, not pessimistic. I think they survive in construction based on what you said, taking the ego out of it and understanding, what, this will come. If it's good times, this too shall pass. If it's bad times, this too shall pass. And you start looking at things from a global perspective, like you said. You step back and you're able to keep that baby healthy because it isn't about you. I love that.
Yeah, and Brad, the one other thing I want to mention, man, is how we look at this industry. Like, a lot of people want to jump in construction and think you're gonna get rich quick.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just I all the time. Like, hey, Jeff, man, it's billions and trillions of dollars in these bond packages and blah blah blah, the airport and this, that, and the other. Like, yeah, like it's a lot. It's like No, you have to have patience with this game. You have to be able to ride out. You know, when you're going to have a bad job, you're going to have a bad estimate. You got to be able to ride that stuff out. You're going to have some inefficiencies in the job field. You ride it out, and you really appreciate the process of managing and managing your process and getting that process right, so it can be repeatable and so it can be successful. You mentioned my son. That's another thing of patience. You know, like, even number one, this company is about legacy. And what I'm trying to do is get this thing really right. Because I got three boys. And they're spaced out in such a way, not that this was what I meant to do, but they're spaced out in a way, man, where this thing can go a long, long way if we have the proper foundation, if we do it right. I've got to set that good foundation right now. That's me being patient. I'm not gonna go buy that Ferrari, bro. Not right now, unless we, something crazy happens.
Man, you know what? Those are for rentals anyway. It's fine.
I've got to reinvest into this company over and over, and we can't spend the dollars. That's the big thing people have to understand. You know, you'll gonna catch a windfall on a job.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta put it back in. You got to put it back in. Make sure the number 2C is right. The capital got to be right.
Absolutely.
That's so spot on. And Jeff, the way I kind of like frame it for especially my growing contractors, because, you know, when you're at the point where you're at, you know, you came out of the other end of COVID a stronger, better just business owner. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the way I've always kind of framed it is, when you're looking at your balance sheet and trying to make sure that growth trajectory is aligned with your business plan, and that the balance sheet's keeping up with the business plan, is that every time you're looking at and you're making your kind of your tax planning for the year end with the CPA, every dollar that you take out of the construction company is going to be between $10 and $20 worth of bonding capacity. Cool. Now, the spread there is kind of the difference of comfort level with the surety. So as your agent is able to negotiate more bonding capacity, you get closer to that 20. As the surety company gets close or gets more comfortable with your character, you get closer to that 20. And so, you know, when a guy's sitting back and he's going, man, I really like that Lambo, you know, well, that's going to, you know, depending on how used the Lambo is, you know, it's either going to be, it could be $200,000. Well, if you multiply that by 20, that's a lot of bonding capacity.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, yeah, you're exactly right. Like, this is a long-term thought process that you in the chair that you're sitting in as the owner of the construction company, most people don't understand how much planning and long-term this thought process goes into it for you. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes, sir.
No doubt. Well, you know, gentlemen, it's good that we went over these capacity lines, and even better that we had a human conversation about what it means to have the wherewithal and the grit to survive in the modern day world of construction. I always like getting good minds together, and I definitely enjoyed and I appreciate your time today. But yeah, one takeaway from each one of you. Biggest success for you with bonding contractors, Casey? That's your question.
Okay. You know, it's hard for me to kind of nail down, you know, what the biggest success has been. My favorite thing to do is,
yeah, that's what I mean.
Right. I knew where you were going with it. Sure. But my favorite thing to do is be able to come through when others haven't for my contractor. And that means I picked up a new contractor because of it. And because I took the time to understand the plan and dig into it more than my competitors do. And that happens, you know, fairly regularly. And so, you know, anytime that we can come in and do that, and that means that Jeff gets to go hire you know, a whole entire additional drywall crew, because that was the last piece that he needed to kind of fulfill where he was going with his business plan. Man, that is that's what wakes me up in the morning and gets me out of bed, and I'm passionate about it. It's giving me chills thinking about it because it's very aligned with what Jeff said earlier. Man, this isn't about me, and I know that if I can do for others what they're trying to accomplish, if I can be a part of that, then I'll be taken care of later.
Yeah, right on. Rising tide lifts all boats. Same question to you in your field, Jeff. What's your big success? You said legacy. You said, scalability, building business. But what overall gets you excited in the morning about your job and growing your business?
Man, I'll go back to what I said earlier. What truly gets me excited in the morning is getting up, knowing that we're impacting people's lives. We want to create jobs, and we want to create space for people to grow, bro. Like that's the key, man. If you can invest in other people, that's just how the world works. That's what the mission was a long time ago when the gospel was being spread. It was about helping people and helping other people grow, and those good things will come back to you. So Brad, I told you about our nonprofit that is it's called Building Pathways, which is, it's very simple. We support people when they start an entry-level construction job. That's at our companies, that's at other companies. Our nonprofit is day-to-day holding the hand of somebody for a year.
Okay.
How do we get you to, how do we help you get to work every day? How do we get you to understand that you got to work every day? How do we help your mindset? Okay. Once we help your mindset, then we focus on where you want to go. Okay. Then once we focus on where you want to go, how do we help you get there? Training, those things that are needed. And then we get you there and we graduate you, and then we do it all over again with somebody else.
That's another show too. We're gonna have to do that again because I love that. That is fantastic.
But that's what excites me, man. Is getting up, creating jobs, and that's why you guys are important, because companies like us, we want to grow our space, and as we grow that space, we've got to be able to. The only way we can grow is with bonding and different things in the public space. So you guys are super important to what we're trying to do.
Man, we're trying to build, man. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out today. Once again, Jeff, we'll have to get together on some of the nonprofit stuff and position that well so we can reach more of an audience and they can know there's help out here. Casey, thank you very much for everything you do on a day-to-day basis for contractors. This is Build Shield. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks.